And thousands of climate campaigners are descending on Westminster demanding MPs take urgent action to preserve our planet. Meg O'Neill is from the Climate Coalition.
This is an opportunity for us to come together and celebrate the power of what happens when we show up together.
Busy old show. A lot to talk about this morning.
Those hospital doctors, they got a 23.5% pay rise. One of the first things the Labour government did, and the Health Secretary Wes Streeting said no more strikes by the doctors. They called up all industrial action. They've been offered 5.3 or 5.4%. That's the highest in the public sector this year. They voted to go on strike. They want 29%. They're not going to get it, but they will go on strike. And that's going to wreck the government's strategy of cutting waiting lists. They are being greedy.
They are being greedy, actually. GBNews.com/your say. Very busy show. First, let's get a 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Bev, thank you. The headlines at 9:30. Emmanuel Macron and his wife continue their state visit to the UK. The couple stayed at Windsor Castle last night, hosted by the King and Queen Camilla. The French president blames Britain for the soaring number of migrant crossings the Channel. Meanwhile, the south of France is battling severe wildfires that have forced the closure of Marseille airport. At least 400 people have been evacuated from their homes, according to French media. Greg Wallace has been sacked as presenter of MasterChef after an independent inquiry into allegations of serious misconduct. The decision comes as 15 new claims emerge, including accusations that Wallace groped colleagues and exposed himself to junior staff. And thousands of cases that would normally be heard in front of a jury should be decided by judges alone, according to recommendations made by a former senior judge. And those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Tatiana, for the news. Now, did you see the footage yesterday of us rolling out the red carpet? No expense was spared, was it? The King hosted the French president for a lavish state banquet at Windsor Castle.
Yeah, the carriage ride through Windsor. There's many more events today and tomorrow. But we should remember as well, not only has this president done nothing apart from take our money to stop the small boats crossing the Channel. He's just a president who tried to thwart Brexit at every opportunity and was pretty rude about Brexit in his speech yesterday. That was very diplomatic.
Well, Charles said that Britain and France would not be friends without their differences before sharing his concerns over irregular migration. Have a listen.
Today, our two countries face a multitude of more complex threats, emanating from multiple directions. As friends and as allies, we face them together. Of course, we would not be neighbours if we did not have our differences. Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
Notice how he uses the government words. Now, that speech has to go through Number 10 and the Foreign Office. They may have even written the speech. Irregular migration, it isn't, it's illegal.
Get used to it, folks. They're laughing
illegal
at us. They are literally laughing at us. Who wants this? Whoever is deciding we call it irregular migration.
It's the government.
Yeah, but who's telling the government?
They think it'll they think the public will be suckered into believing it. If we call it irregular, it's illegal.
Well, it's
Every
not a
time
problem,
they
is
land,
it?
they land on our soil, they've broken the law.
That's right. Yesterday was so depressing for so many reasons. I think it really drew a distinction as well between the elites with the royal family and the leaders and the presidents and the prime ministers and we little people, and how differently we feel about these major issues about security. The irony of King Charles there saying about how we must work together on terrorism when we've had 20,000 people who are here who we don't know who they are, we don't know what murders they've committed in the past, we don't know what atrocities they've been part of.
And we've given the French state £771 million of our money to stop them crossing the Channel. You're right, we don't know who they are. And at the same time, as part of the Brexit reset, we're letting the French come ploughing back into our fishing waters. No, you say to Mr Macron, you're not getting an extra fish until you do a proper deal on the migrants. Yeah. That was our bargaining point, and as per usual, Sir Keir Starmer chucked it away.
He'll never do it, will he? He hasn't got the backbone. We are a joke. I just keep thinking about the comparisons between the way that Donald Trump has his America first.
Yeah.
America first. I will do what is right for my country, and I just want somebody to come up with the spine to say the same sorts of things. But everybody's cozying up to Macron. Yeah. He's sat there smiling, looking like king of the world.
And even this idea of one in, one out, the Spanish are against it, the Italians are against it, the Maltese are against it, so it's not going to happen anyway. But we'd also say to the Spanish, well, you can buzz off too, you're not getting any extra fish either. We had a major bargaining chip, but we surrendered it in the Brexit reset.
Yeah.
Mav, what do we get back?
Let's talk to royal broadcaster and historian Rafe Haydel-Mancu, friend of the show, friend of the channel, very popular with our audience. Rafe, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, you are an expert on the royal issue and the history, but I know you also have a very good political ear and eye for these sorts of occasions. What was your takeout from events yesterday?
Well, you know, as you were both saying there, I don't necessarily think that we should have been rolling out the red carpet for Macron. Remember, of course, you know, the French have always been a thorn in our side. Remember, it was Charles de Gaulle who tried to block us from going into Europe originally. But we've had, of course, it was Macron who was basically encouraging the Irish to make a big deal about the border with Northern Ireland. It was the French who were, as you said, almost scuttled the EU defence agreement over the issue of fishing rights. I mean, the Germans and Europeans couldn't believe that they were being held to ransom by the French over that. Everywhere you look, the French have tried every bit. And now even with the alleged carrot of the Brits being able to apply for defence procurement contracts in Europe, and we know that the French are going to scuttle that as well. Yeah. So they aren't our allies, they're frenemies, I suppose you could say, at best. And what's so frustrating here, with all the conversation that we've been having from Macron Starmer, is that many of us, I'm also an immigration specialist on the New Culture Forum, and we've been the proposals we've been putting out for years are what we've begun to see recently in terms of, for example, that one PR move about slashing one of the boats, for example. But there is something that Macron said that's quite right. And that is, of course, that Britain has got a pull factor. And that's why one in, one out isn't a good solution, because we need to be deporting people. Yeah. 1/3 of the illegal migrants coming into Europe see Britain as their final destination. And so we'll only be encouraging more migrants to come to this country if we adopt this one out, one in policy. And it seems to me that the only solution really is to have a policy of mass deportations of illegal immigrants and removing those pull factors. And that's not just clamping down on the illegal underground economy, the delivery apps, the curry houses. It's cracking down on the rogue landlords who don't do background checks on the people who come here, but also copy what the Australians did, copy what the Danes do, and empty the hotels, empty all the private accommodation, build temporary refugee camps. There are solutions. So Macron has got an argument there, but he needs to do his bit as well, and that includes doing what the Belgians did, entering the water, stopping boats when they're in the water. The Belgians did it very successfully. The French unions have stopped the French government from doing it. I'm hopeful that we'll get a deal on that during the state visit. So there may be one benefit to the visit.
And Denmark, of course, Rafe, you'll know this, they even confiscate jewellery from the migrants who arrive and say, thank you very much, we'll sell that to pay for your food. Quite right.
That's right. So the Danes are a very small, homogenous country, and they experienced such an influx of illegal migrants in the first part of the 21st century. They embarked upon a genuine hostile environment policy, not the milquetoast policy we saw under Theresa May. Jewelry, any assets over 1,000 krona were confiscated, but they also halved the benefits that asylum seekers get. And importantly, they took out adverts in the countries from which the migrants were coming so that they knew about this. This is one of the things people need to understand. You need to let people in those home countries know that this is a genuine environment. And they said, stay in Germany, stay in France, stay at home, anywhere's better than Denmark. And Denmark reduced its asylum seeker numbers to levels not seen since the 1990s.
Incredible.
The Australians did the same thing by using the island of Nauru, an island which is 1,000 miles off the coast of Australia. Now, we don't even need to think about the Rwanda scheme because we have British overseas territories, and there is no legal impediment as we had with Rwanda to using somewhere like South Georgia, a windswept island. All we would need to do is to have old cruise ships moored off the coast of England in the Channel. Migrants who can't be turned back are put onto these cruise ships so that they know they will never ever set foot on British soil. And once those cruise ships are filled up, they're sailed off to the South Georgia Islands for processing and ultimately for deportation. And once you have that, those who are here are in temporary camps. Those who are coming here will never set foot upon British soil, will be processed on a windswept island. No economic incentive for coming here. Then you will have a real deterrent. But it doesn't seem as if anyone in government has the courage to do what needs to be done.
But hey, guess what though, Rafe? The French did come bearing gifts. They're going to let us have the bio tapestry for a whole year. You must be thrilled.
Well, given that it was ours originally.
Yes, quite.
I've made a career out of campaigning for us to keep the Elgin marble, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite.
No, quite.
Say that we should take the bio tapestry back. But yes, that's, I think we need a bit more than a bio tapestry.
I think we do.
To account for our £700 million that we've already given them.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Rafe. Brilliant, Rafe Haidel-Mankou there. The other thing that occurs to me when I'm watching King Charles and Macron and Starmer discussing this, they will never have a hotel on their doorstep. They will never see their own village in which they live affected by illegal migration. And that is a big part of the problem. It's all very well.
Change beyond recognition.
Change beyond... It will never affect them. And that's part of the issue. That's why the public and the elite have never been so far apart.
And the odd thing is, when the Prime Minister said, strangers in a foreign land, he's withdrawn that now. And yet that's how so many of us feel.
Yeah, he said it. I regret saying that.
Yeah, I did. It was in my speech. I hadn't read the speech beforehand. The Telegraph went for this big and hard. They had a headline to say Macron to blame PM for small boats crisis. He did. He said in his speech, I heard it, I read it, he said there is a pull factor, which is access to the black economy. We saw that a few weeks ago with the ease with which people are getting jobs with Deliveroo, illegal migrants, and also their benefit system. We're a soft touch.
You will hear more being made of this access to the black economy, because that is going to be used as an excuse to get us all tied up to a digital ID, and it's going to be used as an excuse to get rid of cash. That is my worry, so just watch. That's what they will all be talking about. Oh, all these migrants coming in, being paid in cash and working in the black economy. Yes, that is a problem, but the solution to that is not to get us all on a digital ID.
So in response to this headline in the Telegraph, Macron to blame PM for small boats crisis, I don't know why they said to blame. He has blamed. A senior Elysée source. So this isn't a spokesman. This isn't an official spokesman for the French government. This is a source. This is a political figure close to the president. So I don't know why we're taking a word of it seriously. Says... The French president looks forward to working with the Prime Minister constructively on this shared priority. Well, that made a lot of difference, didn't it? But we've read it. We've done our bit. Mr. Elysée Palace, if you're watching.
Yeah, bonjour. GBNews.com/your say to let us know your thoughts this morning. A lot of you are getting in touch and saying you were ashamed of that display yesterday that we put on for the French. Up next, though, find out why thousands of people from green groups, eco-zealots and schools are taking part in a national lobby of Parliament this morning. Get ready to see some eco-warriors weeping. First of all, though, let's see how lovely the weather is in those top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Largely sunny skies across the Mediterranean. It is a little bit breezy in parts of Greece and Turkey over the next couple of days, but still lots of blue sky to be had here. Small chance of a shower in Croatia, but mostly they're staying away to the north and east. Small chance of a shower across Catalonia as well, but most of Spain dry and sunny. Bit of an onshore breeze bringing some cloud to the coasts of Portugal, and fine and sunny in the Canaries. Continued risk of a shower or two in Barcelona into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Who is he? What's he doing
They
there?
already know who you are, though.
Don't miss this special reunion. Eamon and Anne together again only on GB News Breakfast this weekend from 6 a.m.
And is that a gardening tan?
No, it's a cypress tan.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Bishopsthorpe Road, it's on the verges of York City Centre, and it was once crowned the best high street in Britain, but there is a new issue facing it, and that is?
The cost of parking. It's increased by, wait for it, 500%.
And they've done that overnight without consultation, right?
Yeah.
So it now costs £4.85 an hour, right? And what's that going to do? It's going to stop people visiting.
It's going to drive people away.
Anna, it's not easy to get around York, I have to say. You know, one road in, one road out type thing, congestion around the place. Yes, there's car parking spaces, but goodness me, I mean, this is obviously very, very controversial, and these are the sort of taxes, indirect taxes, that come on all of us. It's now going to cost us so much money just to get there, just to see there. Tell us more.
That's right, Eamon, and the City of York Council have introduced this to try and reduce congestion, to try and get more people on buses.
Extra things like this just mean that it's been unprepared, but also it just adds up, and it then stops you from doing other things. And you know, for people that haven't got enough money to eat and to look after their kids and things, I think it's disgusting, to be honest.
Thank you for speaking with us this morning, Karen. Really appreciate it. The council say that they are going to review these charges. They're going to look at them every 3, 6 and 9 months and start engaging with the local community to just see how fair these prices are. OK, Anna Riley.
Where are you parked this morning, Anna?
We're parked here, £22.50 it's cost us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel. Welcome back. So thousands of people are heading to Westminster this morning to lobby their MPs to take action on climate change.
Organised by the Climate Coalition, and the government, however, insists it's charting a new course to save nature and achieve net zero. So are these protests pointless? Somebody snorting here in the room with us is somebody you all know very well to this programme, Donna Hay McCarthy, who is the director of the Climate Media Coalition. Look, Ed Miliband and his mad policies are driving all our viewers and listeners mad already, Donna Hay. No more.
You've won.
Stop now.
What are you protesting about? You've won.
Stop now.
Well, actually, I think this group is an interesting. I would call them eco-populists. They want
As opposed to eco-warriors, I think,
exactly,
or eco-zealots.
Yeah. What they want is to implement policies that reduce bills, save the climate and protect nature. We have to accept there's a huge problem with nature in Britain. All of your viewers love nature, but Britain has one of the most nature-destroyed countries in the world. We have lost 70% of our wildlife populations in my lifetime. So we have to do something about that.
And we're
I really am interested in policies that bring down bills. So what could we do? We could get rid of the green taxes the Tories put on electricity bills.
They started with your mate Miliband.
No, it was you guys. It was the Tories put a tax on green electricity,
right,
making it more expensive for people to switch from dirty gas to clean. The other thing we could do is people who live on streets have to pay a high VAT if they want to switch to an EV. Owning a VT for middle-class people, electric vehicle, owning EVs for middle-class people is much cheaper. But if you're working-class people and your car is parked on the road, you have to pay a 20% tax on your electricity. That's not fair. So getting rid of things like that, making home's
What you mean,
cheaper to run.
If it's on your drive, you don't pay it, but if it's on the street, you do.
That's right, yeah.
That is stupid.
It's discrimination against poor people having cheaper
That
cars
is
and
mad.
cleaner runs. So things like that, I think, are good. I think that's what we need to do with the green movement. We need to actually stop fighting each other and find win-wins. How do we protect nature? How do we actually protect the climate, but actually reduce bills for working-class people?
And we agree with you on all of that. And but isn't this the issue? I would consider myself very much to be an environmentalist, as in, I think we should keep our forests. We need to clean up our seas with plastics. We need to keep our water cleaner. I'd quite like cleaner air as well, to be honest. I want more nature. I want more rewild. I want more trees.
We're on the same page.
But when it comes to the fossil fuel, the closure of all of the fossil fuel industries, that is where I think people are frustrated, because that is presumably access to cheap power that we could be using, and instead we're following wind turbines.
I had a friend of mine I was on my way here, he tweeted his bill for fuel for his vehicle for the last 3 months, £5, because he's using electricity produced by solar panels on his home. All over the world, people are moving from petrol-driven cars to EV cars because they're cheaper to run, they're cleaner. I think one of the things that we have to remember in this is you have said things that I agree with. I want us to protect the nature. I love nature. But the oil company scientists in the mid-80s warned that by the 2020s, our climate would start being destroyed. So over the last year, we've had the hottest spring in Britain ever. Farmers are really worried. I never thought...
Well, when you say ever, you mean since records began?
Exactly. But the farmers...
That's not ever.
Well, also it's the highest carbon dioxide in 800,000 years.
That could be a coincidence.
It could be a coincidence, but an Irish scientist working in Southwark in the 1850s discovered the more carbon you add to the atmosphere, the hotter it gets. Now, going back to farmers, I never thought I would listen to the Welsh Farming Union tell the government we can't guarantee food production anymore because our climate is so damaged. Extreme drought, extreme heat, and extreme rain all damages crops.
And shoving inheritance tax on these great farms isn't going to help.
True, but I'm really concerned about their ability to produce food.
Yeah, we share your concerns about that. But anyway, Donna Hayes, love to see you in real life. Nice to see you got your summery shirt on because you're enjoying the warm weather.
Notice it's green.
Right, still to come, we're going to give you the recommendations from a former senior judge to tackle the court backlog. They're great news if you're a criminal after you...
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland. But here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M9 westbound is closed at Junction 4 due to an incident. No entry is permitted at Junctions 4, 5 and 6, so consider alternate routes and allow extra travel time. Further along, the M4 westbound from Junction 24 Coldra to Junction 28 Tredegar Park has roadworks with diversions. In Cumbria, the A590 westbound between the A5092 and the A5087 faces congestion causing 30-minute delays. In Kent, a collision on the A2 westbound and the A28 has led to one-lane closure. And on the trains, Hull Trains has a reduced service today. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
.10 a.m. Wednesday the 9th of July, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Well, the blame game's underway. The French President Macron says Sir Keir Starmer's responsible for the migrant crisis. He says we've got to reduce the pull factors for those illegally crossing the Channel. He had these ever so kind words for us, though.
Long live our France-United Kingdom friendship. Long live the United Kingdom. Long live France.
Our two nations share not only values, but also the tireless determination to act on them in the world.
That was the King welcoming President Macron to the state banquet within no expense spared, star-studded audience, including, bizarrely, Mick Jagger and Elton John. We've rolled out the red carpet for France, but are we embarrassing ourselves on the global stage?
And fewer trials by jury and more cautions instead of prison sentences. These are the recommendations from a senior judge to clear court backlogs, which means that criminals will be happiest.
I think that patients like me will not understand why, having received a 28.9% pay increase, resident doctors are planning to go on strike.
That was Health Secretary Wes Streeting warning that resident doctors, which is the new word for what we used to call junior doctors, is telling them the public will not forgive you as they vote in favour of industrial action. Are we going to see a summer of strikes? How cross are you that they're asking for more money?
They want a 29% pay rise. Amazing, isn't it? And another BBC star sacked. This time it's Greg Wallace, fired from MasterChef after 50 more people apparently came forward to make allegations against him.
And the post office scandal's back in the headlines. A public inquiry has found the torment of the faulty Horizon IT software drove at least 13 people to take their own lives.
And the ultimate globetrotter. We're going to be joined by the man hoping to become the first one to complete an unbroken round-the-world walk. He's almost finished. He set off in 1998.
And we've just spoken to one of them. Thousands of climate campaigners are descending on Westminster, telling MPs they have to take urgent action to save the planet. Meg O'Neill is from the Climate Coalition.
This is an opportunity for us to come together and celebrate the power of what happens when we show up together.
I mean, I like a walk. I can't lie. Walking is one of my favourite things to do. But setting off in 1998 and arriving back in 2025, that is quite something.
That's 27 years.
I've got so many questions for that guest.
Yeah, have you got a wife? Because check, you might not have one anymore. She might have cleared off.
Maybe that's why he went walking. Listen, don't joke. We don't know the answers to some of these questions yet, but we're very much looking forward to talking to him. But do you like a walk? What do you want to walk for 27 years?
How many miles does that mean he's walked?
Well, we'll find out. So many questions. GBNews.com/your say to let us know your thoughts this morning. And also, how did he walk across water?
Yeah, he's the Holy Spirit.
Oh, big guest coming up. Don't go anywhere. First, though, the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Bev, thank you very much. The top stories: French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife continue their state visit to the UK. The couple stayed at Windsor Castle last night, hosted by King Charles and Queen Camilla. Mr Macron blames Britain for the soaring number of migrants crossing the English Channel. He's demanding tough action to make the UK less attractive to illegal arrivals, including a crackdown on black market jobs. In a speech last night, King Charles declared Britain and France would not be friends without their differences, before sharing his concerns over irregular migration.
Today, our two countries face a multitude of more complex threats, emanating from multiple directions. As friends and as allies, we face them together. Of course, we would not be neighbours if we did not have our differences. Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
Sir Keir Starmer will host the French President in Downing Street today and tomorrow as part of the historic state visit to the UK. Meanwhile, Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick told GB News the French could be doing a lot more to assist Britain with illegal migration.
It's important that we have good relations with our nearest neighbour, France, but I think Macron and the French could be doing so much more to help us if they wanted. They could stop the small boats, frankly, tomorrow if they got their gendarmes out on the beaches, into the shallow waters, turning back the boats, as some of our other neighbours do, like the Belgians, for example. But I don't think we should just be leaving this to the kindness of strangers. We've got to have our own sovereign deterrent. That's why I was a proponent of Rwanda. That's why I feel we have to have a very simple system of our own that does not rely on anyone else, which is if you come here illegally, you're detained and you're deported back home to your own country or to a safe third country in hours and days, not months and years.
Paymaster General Nick Thomas Simmons insisted the UK is already working to reduce pull factors.
Are 12,000 people who would have crossed the channel in small boats who have not done so because of the cooperation. We've also managed to seize 600 boats that otherwise would have been used on that dangerous crossing in the channel. But in addition to that as well, the law enforcement cooperation is yielding results. Just look at the last couple of weeks. There were 9 people in Lille this month where French authorities, law enforcement and our National Crime Agency worked together so that 9 people smugglers got sentenced to a total of 64 years in prison.
Meanwhile, the south of France is battling severe wildfires that have forced the closure of Marseille Airport. At least 400 people have been evacuated from their homes, according to French media. 9 firefighters are said to have been injured. Around 110 people have been injured in total, and around 200 firefighters, supported by helicopters and fire engines, have been working to contain the blaze. Authorities have urged residents to stay indoors. A leading charity says delays to compensation for victims of the infected blood scandal are having a devastating impact, as a report into the timeliness of compensation for those infected and affected is due to be published today. On Sunday, the Cabinet Office announced it was unlocking administrative barriers to help the compensation body speed up payments to victims. Campaigners say frustration is growing, with many still waiting for answers and dubbing it the worst treatment disaster in the history of the NHS. Greg Wallace has been sacked as the presenter of MasterChef after an independent inquiry into allegations of serious misconduct. The decision comes as 15 new claims emerge, including accusations that Wallace groped colleagues and exposed himself to junior staff. He denies the allegations, though admitted some of his past comments had been inappropriate. And finally, thousands of cases that would normally be heard in front of a jury should be decided by judges alone, according to recommendations made by a former senior judge. Sir Brian Leveson was asked by the Lord Chancellor to come up with a series of proposals to reduce the backlog of cases in the criminal courts. There are almost 77,000 cases waiting for trial in the Crown Court in England and Wales, meaning some defendants and victims are waiting years for justice. Sir Brian suggested reforms to reduce the risk of total system collapse, but some barristers argue juries are essential for fair justice. To fix what he calls a broken system, Sir Brian suggested having judge-only trials for certain cases, such as fraud and bribery. Director of Public Prosecution Stephen Parkinson said, though this report is a bold but necessary response to the mounting pressures facing our justice system, he says carrying on as we are is not an option. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Tatiana. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner. Let's see what you've been saying at home. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of you not very impressed with the state banquet last night for Emmanuel Macron. Renika said that crass banquet. Everybody posting was slated it, and to write, I didn't know they had colour TVs in Elizabeth I's reign. Not quite sure what you mean by that, Nick.
What was Mick Jagger doing there?
Quite.
I mean, what's he got to do with it?
No idea.
And Elton John, well, he's got a home in France, so... but it's
that
tenuous,
surely
isn't it?
can't be a prerequisite.
It's tenuous, isn't it? I mean, why? I mean...
Establishment, Andrew. Capital E, establishment. Michael says, your guest who said, move the illegal migrants to British overseas territories like South Georgia. That was Rafe Hayden-Manku earlier. He is bang on the money. What a brilliant deterrent. It is not rocket science. The will is not there, Michael. Get used to it. We're going to live on one planet with one population.
Would stop overnight.
Greg says, yep, they're going to try and use this for digital ID as a national security issue. The thing is, the black economy already works without digital ID. So what will a digital ID do in fighting the illegal immigrants? Bang on, Greg. The only people it would be affected is entrapment of legal citizens into the Great Reset agenda. So it's just all unfolding, isn't it, before our very eyes. Peter says, if I fly to America, will I be able to claim political asylum on the grounds that I fear for my life in the United Kingdom? The government and King are no longer able to offer me the protection I gave to everybody else during my 22 years of service in the armed forces. Thank you, Peter, and thank you for your service. Let's see what else you've been saying here. gbnews.com/your say to get involved. What's quite nice on here, it's a bit confusing for us sometimes, but you're also all talking to each other. So sometimes we drop into conversations and it can be a little bit difficult for us to work out what the thread is that you're all discussing. Carol says Macron is going to get what he wants and give nothing. The fool Starmer thinks he's a friend. Macron wants us back in. I guess that's Brexit, so they can tell us what to do. They don't care. They're using us to dump all the illegal people on us. And Mick says they wouldn't fit on South Georgia.
That's very true.
Many.
No, well, the fact is, they'd stop coming.
Would they, though?
And it's cold.
Yeah.
It really is.
I don't think that bothers them, though.
No.
They're not really here for the weather, are
There's
they?
Ascension Island.
They're here, let's face it, they're here because we speak English. A lot of people want to come and live here. because we speak English. That is primarily,
Well,
you've got the pull factors. English, very generous benefits system.
Yeah.
And family members who were already
and they just in the black economy. Rupert Lowe, remember, who left the Reform Party, when I did that interview with him, he said, shove them on a remote Scottish island, give them a tent and let the midges do the rest. Not a bad idea. It went down very well with people out that, I can tell you.
Was that your interview where you tried to destroy the Reform Party?
He gave his view about Nigel Farage being a messianic leader.
Well, I don't agree with that, because also you can't say let the midges do their worst, because the other thing is as well, I genuinely don't harbour any ill will to those individuals who want to be here. I'd want to be here if I lived in Eritrea or Somalia. I'd want to come here. It's not them, it's the system.
Yeah. Now, talking to the system, it's broken, our justice system. So to resolve the issue, a report has been done by Sir Brian Leveson, the former judge, who says we've got to have various reforms, which include...
Yeah, a number of jury trials being reduced, and that is significant. These plans would shift the structure of courts, reclassify offences to cut the record-high backlog.
Well, let's talk to the former Conservative Justice Secretary, Sir Robert Buckland. Sir Robert, morning to you. It's all your fault, because we have a backlog of 77,000 Crown Court cases, because when you lot were in power for 14 years, you allowed the backlog to grow and grow. And now, if Leveson is to be adopted, our historic attachment to the jury system is going to come to an end.
Well, it's not all our fault. I actually, when I was in office, increased the number of sitting days, increased funding for the court system, and then COVID hit and made the backlog question even worse. You're always going to have cases in the list, Andrew, at a level where we're looking at 77,000, which is clearly dramatically above where we are. What's happened to make that the case? Well, there's no doubt that for the last quarter of a century, in fact, and I was a practicing criminal barrister before I was an MP for a very long time, I noticed that underfunding was a chronic issue for the Crown Court system. And despite my best efforts, that has continued to be the case. And the work has got more complex. You know, I used to do a couple of trials a week, maybe even, 2 trials a day. Now, because of the wealth of information on mobile phones and digital evidence, that's become much more complex. And frankly, the system has not caught up with the demands of a digital age, which is why I think in the second part of Leveson's inquiry, which is going to be published later in the year, the technological changes that we need to bring in, to use AI and other assistive technologies to sift through evidence quickly in moments rather than weeks, I think will be more important in terms of making a difference to cutting the backlog and making this process a much simpler and less time-consuming one.
But the jury trial, Robert, underpins our democracy, quite literally being judged by your peers as opposed to one sitting official. And let's face it, this won't be temporary. Once we lose this system, it won't then be reintroduced once you've got rid of the backlog. It won't work like that. This will be the end of the jury system. And therefore, go on.
This is my concern. I spent my life as a practitioner in front of juries, prosecuting, defending. I absolutely lived the system and believed in it. And of course, I was faced with this challenge in COVID. A lot of siren voices said to me, oh, get rid of juries, have a judge and 2 magistrates. And I said no, because I was worried that once you started to do something on that basis, you were going to be on a slippery slope away from juries. Now, I think this is the part of the Leveson recommendations that we need to be very careful about indeed. I don't agree, for example, with this idea that juries don't understand fraud issues. I think that's because of poor presentation by the prosecution, not because juries are daft. And in fact, my experience, juries have a great deal of sense when it comes to decision making. And I wouldn't want to see a system whereby we are forced away from, as you say, this centuries-old right that we have in this country. That is was developed here in the UK and has been, of course, used by common law systems across the world. So we need to look very carefully at that. Yeah. Yes, I can see a case for perhaps moving some trials down to the Magistrates' Court. He's come up with an idea about the order in which things are done. I think that could work. But I think just using this as an excuse to say, do you know what, it's just all too difficult, we don't want juries anymore, I think that would be a bad move.
But the other thing I don't quite get about Leveson, Sir Robert, is this. Why getting rid of juries does it speed up the process? Are we saying that a judge, because it's 12 good men, women and true, they're going to take longer in the jury room to come to a decision? Isn't a judge going to have to take a very long time to come to a measured decision?
It's a fair point. Having sat as a part-time judge myself, I know that jury management can be very complex.
Right.
Because let's not forget that judges deal with the law and juries deal with the facts. And you can't mix the two together. And very often you have to, and this is difficult for juries, you have to get them in and out of the courtroom so that they don't hear information about or evidence that is not relevant to the case, and then matters of law decided without their involvement. Therefore, it is a more complex situation. The sheer wealth of evidence now and what we call unused material, or that background disclosure material, has exploded because of mobile phones and because of technology. And that means that it just takes a long time to get the cases to court. And even before they get charged, the police can take months, if not years, with their investigation. There's something called release under investigation that the police use to get around the bail rules. That has been recommended to have been by Sir Brian to be disused and stopped. I agree wholeheartedly with that. It does seem to me that we need technology right from the beginning so that the police can use assistive technology, marshal the evidence together, and then send it to the CPS in order to decide swiftly whether there's a case or not. And we've got to get all parts of the system, right from the beginning to the end, reformed by the use of sensible technology.
And the point about juries as well, they represent the man and woman on the street, and they should be a key part of that judicial process.
I think so. I can't think of anything fairer in my book than having non-lawyers, people who perhaps have never been into a courtroom before in their lives, coming to do a very important public service and sit on a jury. And I'm very proud, Andrew, when I was Justice Secretary, I made sure that people who had hearing impairments could have help from signers. That had never been the case before. So, because I passionately believe that whoever you are, whatever walk of life you're from, you shouldn't be barred from sitting on a jury because of a disability. I feel very passionately about this, having worked in the system for many years. And any curtailment on jury trial, we've really got to think very carefully before we go down that road.
Yeah, OK. Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much.
Sir Robert Buckland, former Tory Justice Secretary. Glad to hear him defending juries. Labour government going after juries, you wouldn't think it, would you?
Oh, I totally would think
turning
it.
Just turning everything on its head.
Yeah, but democracy doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
They're all about centralised power. They're all about clamping down on the little person. No free speech, no democracy. Top-down ruling, that's what we're seeing from this Labour government.
Certainly is.
Anyway.
Time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize. Just excuse me, because my thing's fallen off. It's an incredible 54,321. It's a bit of technology I don't understand. Here's the details you need to make it all yours.
Oh.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14, PO Box 8690, Derby, DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Up next, MasterChef star Greg Wallace has been sacked. Apparently 50 fresh historical allegations have been made against his behaviour. This is by women he's worked with? Oh, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Just a few jokes, some of them, to be honest. Nicknames they didn't like. I think it's pretty outrageous. What do you think? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power. Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sunday mornings from 9:30.
She left office 35 years ago, which seems incredible.
God, that makes me feel really old. I remember being at school when she was deposed.
Oh, that makes me feel really old, because I was way beyond school.
Well, I was 47 yesterday, so...
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Carry on.
So there are three generations that have grown up that weren't alive when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. And there are so many myths that have built up about her that... and part of the reason I wrote it was because my personal trainer, I broke my hip 2 years ago.
Yes.
So I had to get a personal trainer to the rehab. And he's 25, or was then. And when he found out what I did for a living, he said, well, Margaret Thatcher, I've heard of her, but who was she? What did she do? He didn't even know she'd been Prime Minister. And I was like slightly horrified by this. So this is really aimed at those generations. You can't tell every aspect of her life in a book that size, but it really is an introduction to her. And the first sentence says, if you've read Charles Moore's 3-volume biography of her, please stop here. This book is not for you.
No.
So
it's an
it covers most of the
introduction to her.
things.
And by the way, maybe that revelation by your PT does ask questions about the national curriculum and history teaching. They should do a section, shouldn't they, on our first female Prime Minister, arguably. But what's the challenge then when you're writing somebody's life up? I mean, and what a life she led.
Well, I found out that it's much more difficult to write a short book than a long book, because you really do have to be concise. I was told I had 30,000 words. I said, well, that's a pamphlet, not a book. So I stretched it to 45,000. But normally a biography would be 120, 150,000 words. So it really was quite a challenge to condense it all. And what do you leave out? I mean, I wasn't going to do a chapter on Northern Ireland, but as I was writing it, I thought, no, you can't do that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, breaking news, reports are saying that Christian Horner is to be sacked as the boss of the Formula One firm Red Bull.
Horner is the longest reigning F1 team principal. He took position at Red Bull in 2005. And if you remember, about a year ago, there was that very high-profile scandal which engulfed him over WhatsApp messages in which he appeared apparently sent to a female employee, and she complained. And now,
just to put in context, he is married to Jerry Halliwell, who was Ginger Spice. At the time, she told him to all go away, but she very publicly stuck by her man. It remains to be seen whether she still will. We're expecting official confirmation in the next hour. Beverly, you probably know more about Formula One than anybody around this table, because you worked in it for a while.
I did. I worked in it for sort of 3 or 4 years at the start of the 2000s. It was then a very, and I presume probably still is, a very male environment. Goes without saying, full of testosterone. It wasn't easy to be a young woman in that environment. I won't lie. It wasn't easy to be taken seriously in doing your job. However, I like to think that in 2025 things have moved on. The relationship between Christian Horner and the girl on the team, the messages that they were exchanged are very publicly available. They were screenshot and they're available. They are shocking. Shocking. And I couldn't believe when this story first broke a year ago that Jerry Halliwell, who we're looking at on screen now, I couldn't believe that she stood by her man.
So he was bombarding a woman,
a colleague on the team.
A younger woman, presumably, on the team, and she wasn't soliciting them.
There was... You can read into... Look, the written text message has ambiguity already baked into it, doesn't it, in terms of the tone of them. Some of them were overtly flirtatious. She appeared to be flirting back with him. There were invitations to hotel rooms, and on occasions it seemed like she went. If it was my husband, it would be a sackable offence on a marriage basis, put it that way. But some wives might have said, well, it was only a little bit of flirting, maybe it wasn't. There were photographs
this was
as
way
well.
beyond banter.
But it was.
Way beyond
but
banter.
for whatever reason, Jerry Halliwell was able to rationalise it in her head as not an offence that dent their marriage.
But in any situation like that, the female has to say to herself, what have I got to lose? And in this case, an awful lot. Because Christian Horner is one of the most successful executives, one of the greatest brains that Formula One's ever seen.
Right.
6 World Championship titles, right, over the course of the time he's been in charge, almost unprecedented. And I think Jerry Halliwell's a huge desire to get away from being a Spice Girl to being a country lady, because he could afford to buy. They had huge houses all over the place, you know, in Chipping Norton and places like that. She very much must have liked that lifestyle, and I'm not making any judgment on her, but any lady in that position has to weigh up, you know.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, in the background, you can almost hear them playing "Stand by Your Man," but the reality is that you don't get immunity just because you're famous. I mean, look at Jeffrey Epstein. Look at any number of people who felt that they're above the law.
Jeffrey Epstein didn't have any clients. You've seen the official report. There were no clients whatsoever. The only person who did anything wrong with Jeffrey Epstein was Ghislaine Maxwell. I had no idea.
Let's just make it really clear as well that Christian Horner denies all these allegations. He would say this was just communications with. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think I've seen the messages.
But you say he's the most successful. On your point about a male-dominated sport, there are women racing drivers now very successful. Now, the point about this, I think it's a bit like watching scale electrics. I mean, I just couldn't watch it. However, if you have a motorbike versus a bicycle, the motorbike's always going to beat the bicycle. So a lot of it is just to do with the mechanical ability of the vehicle. So when you see women drivers, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a woman world champion. And there are some excellent women.
Let me tell you the answer to that question. Because I wrote a book about it when I left Formula One called The Pits, The Real World of Formula One. No. Because then I said to one of the team bosses, why are there no female drivers? And he said, this wasn't on camera, but he said, oh, Bev, there are. They are very good. They're as good as the men. They're not very pretty.
What?
And that is
and the men are pretty, aren't they?
Well, the point was that Formula One is a marketing exercise. You need to be good and you need to be beautiful.
I mean, Lewis Hamilton's a good-looking lad, but I wouldn't call him pretty.
Well, he's very marketable. He was handsome. He is handsome.
But also, you want to see David Coulthard's neck. That's another thing for women. The G-forces in a Formula One racing car going like that, I'm not joking, it changes the shape of your body.
So, Christian Horner, I have to say, I'd never heard of him until this story blew up about Jerry Halliwell. He's who are the drivers who've driven for Red Bull?
Well, the current world champion, who's won it 4 times,
Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen, is his latest, but he's helped other drivers who've gone on to world titles through his career. You've got to remember, he's achieved very, very young. He was a failed racing driver who then decided to go across the fence, if you see what I mean, into the management of it all, and he worked at a very junior level since the age of about 32 or something like that. It's very early to start. Eddie Jordan died recently. He was another great Formula One legend who did exactly the same. He failed as a driver but became a great administrator and team principal. And Christian Horner's, I'd say, one of the most powerful men in the business.
So was Max Mosley, if you remember.
Max Mosley,
Christian Horner's salary at Red Bull is £8 million a year.
Yes.
That's his salary. His net worth is reported to be about 50 million.
This is what I was talking about.
If they get divorced, she'll
I hope she had a prenup.
Yes.
Well, and listen, we've got to remember that behind all this, they have children. This is awful for this family. This is awful for Jerry Halliwell.
Of course.
This is awful for their children.
It is.
It's terribly sad. He's obviously been an idiot if this is proven to be true. They've obviously found that he has acted inappropriately because he has been sacked by Red Bull. It's a sad story.
And maybe it wasn't isolated.
Well, that's speculation, isn't it? But there was a terrible atmosphere within Formula One when all this broke out, because as in anything like this, you've got to take sides, and you're thinking, you know, should my moral compass be readjusted and all that kind of stuff. The thing is, he's so talented that I reckon, and, you know, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself now, that if he stands down here, if he comes away from Red Bull, he'll emerge somewhere else in another team somewhere,
sure
because he's so talented.
But
maybe in the passage of time, but I don't think he'd be able to straight away.
He's only in his early 50s. He's still quite a young man.
Yeah,
exactly. As I say, he started in his early 30s. He's had tremendous success.
But Andrew's point is a very important point. Look at the Greg Wallace situation now, where 50 people have come forward once it's out there and come up. You know, even people like Kirsty Walk, the divine Kirsty Walk, has actually talked about some of the things he said. You wait and see. There will be more coming out.
Yeah, but I hate that, Stephen.
No, I'm not approving of it. I'm just saying Andrew makes a very, very telling point.
But you see, the thing is, the Greg Wallace story, because there are obviously parallels
and
here.
don't forget, he's got autism, so we've got to be...
Well, to be clear, the autism diagnosis is something that he believes he's discovered more recently.
This is
I don't know. This is Greg Wallace.
Yeah.
But I find the way he's been treated, I genuinely find it appalling. I'm sorry. A lot of it is about, and he does say, I recognise that some of my humour and language at times was inappropriate, and for that I apologise without reservation.
Yeah.
The most damaging claims were found to be baseless after a full and forensic 6-month investigation. So he's lost his job for some fruity jokes, for some inappropriate nicknames. You wouldn't last 5 minutes.
I'll be out the door.
You and I can think of newsrooms 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
The humour we would hear, the remarks we would hear would not be allowed in this studio today.
I totally agree. During the course of this case, he's made the point that I was brought onto the show because I was a bit rough and ready.
Correct.
I was a former
cheeky
grocer,
Barra boy turned good,
and that's why when he first defended himself, he said a handful of middle-aged women of a certain calibre and all that kind of stuff. 2 weeks ago, I was in a rather nice bar with a friend of mine when somebody came up and started talking to my friend, and I realised it was Greg Wallace.
Right.
And I have to say, he has... Well, the only thing he talked about for the next 15 minutes was
Wallace.
How badly done to he...
Oh, really?
Well, look, I don't want to reveal everything he said, but the thing is, his life has basically been destroyed by this case.
And did you sense he knew that the chop was coming?
I got the sense that there would be no way back. I think he felt that, but to try and rescue what was left of it was his main concern. You know, how deep down was this going to go? He felt very badly done to. He says even this morning.
I'm sorry, but I do think there's a class issue here. I'm sorry, but I think Greg Wallace was hired to be a barra boy done good, was full of innuendo, and they've kicked him out and they've kicked him to the curb. Look at Hugh Edwards, part of the establishment, a bit more posh, gets away. We've got to move on, fellas.
Apparently he walked into the green room wearing a sock and not on his feet.
No, it was in his dressing room, but
he opened the door. He opened the door.
Still.
Yeah.
In response to the latest allegations, a spokesperson for Greg Wallace has said Greg continues to cooperate fully with the ongoing Banjo UK review and has previously stated and denies engaging in behaviour of a sexually harassing nature.
Banjo UK instructed the law firm Lewis Silkin to run an investigation into allegations to Greg Wallace.
That's going to cost a bit.
We are not going to comment until the investigation is complete and the findings are published.
That is from the BBC, and as you say, Stephen, a lot of taxpayers' money being spent on a very expensive legal firm. Right, thank you, gentlemen. 60-second news update with Tatiana Hisches.
Thank you. The headlines at 10:30. Christian Horner's been sacked by the Red Bull Formula One team. According to reports, the British team principal became involved in a scandal last year about texts sent to a female employee. Emmanuel Macron and his wife continue their state visit to the UK. The couple stayed at Windsor Castle last night, hosted by the King and the Queen Camilla. The French president blames Britain for the soaring number of migrants crossing the Channel. Meanwhile, the south of France is battling severe wildfires that have forced the closure of Marseille Airport. At least 400 people have been evacuated from their homes, according to French media. Greg Wallace has been sacked as presenter of MasterChef after an independent inquiry into allegations of serious misconduct. The decision comes as 50 new claims emerge, including accusations that Wallace roped colleagues and exposed himself to junior staff. He denies all the allegations. And thousands of cases that would normally be heard in front of a jury should be decided by judges alone, according to recommendations made by a former senior judge. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Up next, we are continuing to roll out the red carpet.
Oh, goody, goody.
For Emmanuel Macron.
Oh, even better.
He said it's all our fault that we've got small boat crossings because we're just making it too appealing to be here. He's right about that.
He is. But he is waving them across.
Yeah.
And keeping our money, all 781 million of it. Give it back, Mr. Macron.
See you in a minute. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south, with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland, but here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England, could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles, and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow, and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M9 westbound at Junction 4 is closed due to an incident, with no access via on-slip roads at Junctions 4, 5 and 6. Please consider an alternative route and allow extra journey time. The M4 westbound from Junction 24 Coldra to Junction 28 Tredegar Park is closed for planned maintenance, with diversions available. In Thurrock, the A13 westbound has a broken down vehicle between the M25 and A1306 Avley, causing 10-minute delays, expected to clear by 10:30 this morning. And on the trains, Hull Trains operates a reduced service today. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. So on Saturday, GB News will be covering the annual 12th of July celebrations from Northern Ireland to commemorate the Battle of the Boyne.
It's now marked worldwide for its lasting impact on everyday life. If you're a Catholic, you may find this a bit more troubling. Our Northern Ireland reporter Doogie beat us this story with the help of AI technology, which is designed to bring the past to life, not to alter it.
The UK is a place we all take for granted. We enjoy its religious freedoms and democratic institutions, but these were all fought for, especially in the late 15 and 1600s. In 1588, Elizabeth I smashed the Spanish Armada and put down a rebellion of the Irish Earls that bankrupted Ulster's economy. In 1603, James VI of Scotland unites the crowns and becomes James I. He plants the Presbyterians from Scotland into Ulster to refloat an Irish economy. Charles I reopens the religious question, and from the conflict that follows would see not only his death, but Britain become a republic under Oliver Cromwell. 1660, Charles II restores the monarchy, but punishes non-conformists. In 1685, James II is a tyrannical monarch. He's a strong ally of Louis of France. He raises an Irish army to challenge revolution. But his 3-year reign would come to an end by his daughter Mary and her husband William. They become the first constitutional and only joint monarchy. They introduce the Bill of Rights, the Bank of England, and hand more powers to Parliament.
The Glorious Revolution really is the most pivotal moment in our history within the British Isles. It creates a new constitutional settlement, and it has many layers to it as part of a wider European conflict to the balance of power of Europe. It's part of a civil war, essentially, for the throne here in the British Isles, and it's also hides a number of family disputes.
The 12th of July is still celebrated across the world because many countries adopted the Bill of Rights from 1688. And after the revolution, many more left the UK and headed for America.
And as we've mentioned, this Saturday, GB News, of course, will be covering live the annual 12th of July celebrations in Northern Ireland with our very own special programme. I was in Ireland a few weeks.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very nice. That's Arlene Foster, of course. She was on the winning side in the Battle of the Boyne. She's a big, good Protestant.
I mean, she wasn't there.
No,
to be clear,
definitely wasn't there.
But,
it was a long time ago.
And a very popular broadcaster, so you look forward to seeing her on Saturday.
I bumped into the House of Lords just the other day.
Oh, very nice. Now, just to recap, breaking news, just broken. Christian Horner has been sacked as Red Bull team principal.
This dismissal comes 17 months after he was accused by a female colleague of inappropriate behaviour. Horner was twice exonerated of the claims by the Formula One team's parent company, Red Bull GmbH. But on Wednesday, a statement from Red Bull GmbH read:
Red Bull has released Christian Horner from his operational duties with effect from today and has appointed Lauren Mikies as CEO of Red Bull Racing. I think...
For what's changed?
My take out from this story, and of course Christian Horner is married to Jerry Halliwell, formerly Ginger Spice, is that a man could send such incriminating messages to somebody that he worked with and not think it would backfire on him, allegedly. He denies everything.
Yes, he does deny everything. And, of course, the person he sent the messages to, she's not been named, but she, by definition, was a very junior member of staff compared to him, because he was the boss.
Sad for the family.
I think it's very sad. And there'll be now huge... the question will be, does Jerry Halliwell stand by her man? Because she has done so far. They've got children, of course, and that's always the big loser, because kids can be cruel, and this will be all around school playground winter.
Right, if you're in search of some holiday sun, let's have a quick look at the temperatures across Europe if you're going on your holes. Here they are.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Largely sunny skies across the Mediterranean. It is a little bit breezy in parts of Greece and Turkey over the next couple of days, but still lots of blue sky to be had here. Small chance of a shower in Croatia, but mostly they're staying away to the north and east. Small chance of a shower across Catalonia as well, but most of Spain dry and sunny. Bit of an onshore breeze bringing some cloud to the coasts of Portugal, and fine and sunny in the Canaries. Continued risk of a shower or two in Barcelona into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel. Very good morning, 10:48. This is Britain's Newsroom.
So, would you like to have been there for the state banquet at Windsor Castle? You could have sat opposite Elton John or Mick Jagger. Quite why they were there.
Who knows? Every state visit, of course, comes at a cost, and it begs the question, is this French state visit a waste of money?
Let's talk to the former Tory MP, Alex Stafford. Alex, the French president in the afternoon, very good to see you, by the way, was pretty off message, I thought, when he said it's pretty much the government's fault for the small boats crisis because of the pull factors we've done nothing about. Access to the black market, benefits, living in hotels. He rather ignores the fact that the French gendarmes wave the boats across the channel, even though they've taken nearly £800 million of our taxpayers' money.
Well, in some ways, he's absolutely right. We are far too soft touch when it comes to so many things, especially like working the black market. But let's be honest, this state visit is an utter humiliation for Britain, an utter humiliation for the Prime Minister. We're paying hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds each year for the French government to stop the small boats, and they do nothing. I think the last time they stopped less than 1 in 5 of the small boat crossings, which is nothing for such a huge value of money. We saw just before the state visit, one French police officer slashing the small boat, the rubber dinghy, stopping a boat coming across. It shows that actually the French can do it if they want. They have the law, they have the power, they have the manpower to do it, but they're choosing not to do it, and we're spending hundreds of millions of pounds. So to have Macron coming over here at the taxpayers' cost to then basically rub salt in the wounds, it's frankly humiliating and embarrassing. What we should have done instead is actually said to Macron, you can't have this state visit, you can't come sit in your gilded carriage with the king until you actually do what you're paid to do, which is stop the small boats and take responsibility.
But
this is just sort of embarrassing.
But Alex, the Conservatives never did that either. It's all very well to sit there as a former Tory MP saying they should have done that. You guys didn't do it either. What's wrong with everybody?
Well, don't get me wrong, the small boat numbers were way too high, but even the last year, in the Tory government, they were drastically coming down. Still way too high, don't get me wrong. But I do not think that we should, when the numbers are going up, over 50% up this year on the small boat crossing, that we should have rolled out the red carpet to Macron. And what are we getting in response? Basically saying we'll lend you the Bio Tapestry to come and
who wants
to be
to
in the
see
British
that?
Museum. I want to see it.
To see that.
I want to see it, but that was also promised as Theresa May in 2018.
Yes.
And it didn't happen.
I
so
know.
it's a French promise. It
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
happened.
So it probably won't. And the thing is, once we take the Bio Tapestry, then we'll have the flipping Greeks demanding the Elgin marbles go to Athens for a year, and then we'll never get them back. But what about the cost, Alex? Because we've asked government, we've asked Number 10, we've asked Buckingham Palace about the cost of this state visit. They won't tell us. I suspect it's tens of millions of pounds, because just not least because of the security involved in itself.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think if it was a normal situation, I think these state visits are worthwhile to have better trade links, better relationships. But if we're already spending hundreds of millions of pounds each year to the French authorities to try and stop the small boat crossing, and they're not doing it, why are we spending even more money? To me, this is throwing good money after bad, and this is just embarrassing. What we should be saying is actually you do not get the benefits, the enjoyment of the state visit unless you actually do what you're paid to do, and that is the concern. We're just wasting more and more money and not getting any results.
Were you a little irked, because I was, that Macron chose to speak entirely in French at the state banquet? He spoke in English, how kind of him, when he addressed both Houses of Parliament. I thought it was rather odd. Perhaps he could have spoke some English.
Well, I think normally it's polite, I'd say, especially someone who is fluent in English to speak English to your host. It's a natural, gracious thing. But let's be honest, the French haven't been treating us in a gracious way over the last couple of years when it comes to small boats. And this is why I do think this visit is a humiliation for Britain, when in fact state visits normally are a great celebration, a great spectacle. Instead, Macron is coming on saying, look, we're actually in control here. We can control who comes into your country. We can control what language we're speaking, and you can't do anything about it. And it seems like the government is quite spineless to stand up and to say anything.
There are certain times when the public might enjoy watching the grandiose occasion of a state visit. This is not one of them, because we're being told all the time by this government, we've got no money, we can't afford anything, we're taking it off the pensioners, we're taking it off the farmers, we're taking it off people who've got kids at private school. But you know what we can do? We can put on a lavish banquet that will cost, as you say, we don't know how much, millions of pounds.
Tens of
in
millions.
a gilded, beautiful gilded room with the most unimaginable opulence everywhere. The public feel like they're being trolled at the moment, Alex. And why has nobody got the backbone to stand up and say, we need to do things differently because we can't justify this to the British public?
Well, I think you're right. I think what we have to do is actually say, come on, Macron, what are you giving us in return? That's it. Literally, the only thing that's come out, as I can tell, out of the summit is one small boat, which has been stopped, and then the Bio
And that was a PR gimmick.
of which
that was
we
a
are
PR
giving...
gimmick, Alex.
Yeah, I know, I agree, but that's literally all we've got. Oh, and in return for the Bio Tapestry, we're going to lend France some of the Sutton Hoo treasures. So it's not even like we're getting something for nothing. We're actually trading. That's why this trip is a humiliation, and it's embarrassing for the whole government and for Britain.
Alex, thank you so much. Former Tory MP Alex Stafford there. Still to come, a man who's walked around the world after your weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine, and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south, with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland, but here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England, could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles, and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of it is looking sunny tomorrow, and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is he? What's he doing there?
They already know who you are, though.
Don't miss this special reunion. Eamon and Anne together again, only on GB News Breakfast this weekend from 6 a.m.
And is that a gardening tan?
No, it's a cypress tan.
It's 11 a.m. on Wednesday, the 9th of July, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom, with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Very good morning. So, breaking news, not a good morning for Christian Horner. He's been sacked as Red Bull team principal in Formula One 17 months after he was accused by a female colleague of, quote, inappropriate behaviour.
The blame game continues. Macron, the French president, says he holds Sir Keir Starmer responsible for the migrant crisis, saying Britain needs to reduce the pull factors for those illegally crossing the Channel. He had these, though, ever so kind words for us, so do be
Long live our France, United Kingdom friendship. Long live the United Kingdom. Long live France.
Our two nations share not only values, but also the tireless determination to act on them in the world.
That was King Charles welcoming President Macron to an elaborate state banquet with a star-studded audience, including, randomly, Mick Jagger and Elton John. We've embarrassingly rolled out the red carpet for France, but what is the agenda for day 2?
In the last few moments, King Charles has bid a formal farewell to President Macron. The easy bit's now over. The hardest bit's yet to come in Downing Street. But has the royal soft power softened the blow? More details shortly.
And they're looking at the justice system again. Get this, jury-free trials, pivotal to our justice system, could be axed to save our courts, apparently, from collapse.
Yes, the justice system is on its knees with 77,000 cases now in a backlog. But can jury-free trials really be the answer? Find out more with me very soon.
I think that patients like me will not understand why, having received a 28.9% pay increase, resident doctors are planning to go on strike.
Greedy doctors. That was a Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, warning resident doctors, that's a new title for junior doctors, the public will not forgive you as they vote for industrial action. Would you forgive them?
They've got the taste for it. Now, it's Wednesday, of course, so Kemi Badenoch will be taking on the Prime Minister Keir Starmer at Prime's Questions for Midday. Don't forget to send in your questions for Starmer. gbnews.com/your say.
And Greg Wallace has been fired from MasterChef. More than 50 people have come forward with historical allegations made against him. Does that feel like justice?
And we love this story. The Globetrotter. This is the chap who's become, he thinks, the first person to complete an unbroken round-the-world walk. He's almost finished after setting off in, guess when? 1998. Extraordinary. I want to know how many pairs of shoes he's got through.
Well, we have that and many questions.
In 27 years, be quite a few. I have walked to the top of Machu Picchu in Peru.
You haven't?
Did?
Well, I wouldn't have said that about you, Andrew.
It wasn't from the bottom. From halfway up, you can get a funicular railway, or you can hike up. So
Did you take an entourage carrying your bags for you?
No, I didn't.
Pouring your tea for you on the top?
I had the rucksack, and then we stayed in a hotel at the top.
Really?
It's a really interesting place, Machu Picchu.
Socks and sandals?
I wouldn't.
And yes, that was Olivia Otley in the studio with us. Isn't it wonderful to see Olivia Otley back from maternity leave?
Looking
Yay!
stunning, I may say.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to Olivia in just a moment, though. Let's hear first from Tatiana Sanchez with your headlines.
Beth, thank you very much for the top stories. The French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife continue their state visit to the UK. The couple stayed at Windsor Castle last night, hosted by King Charles and Queen Camilla. Mr Macron blames Britain for the soaring number of migrants crossing the Channel. He's demanding tough action to make the UK less attractive to illegal arrivals, including a crackdown on black market jobs. In a speech last night, King Charles declared Britain and France would not be friends without their differences, before sharing his concerns over irregular migration.
Today, our two countries face a multitude of more complex threats, emanating from multiple directions. As friends and as allies, we face them together. Of course, we would not be neighbours if we did not have our differences. Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration across the English Channel.
Sir Keir Starmer will host the French president in Downing Street today and tomorrow as part of the historic state visit to the UK. Meanwhile, Robert Jenrick told GB News the French could be doing a lot more to assist Britain with illegal migration.
It's important that we have good relations with our nearest neighbour, France, but I think Macron and the French could be doing so much more to help us if they wanted. They could stop the small boats, frankly, tomorrow if they got their gendarmes out on the beaches, into the shallow waters, turning back the boats as some of our other neighbours do, like the Belgians, for example. But I don't think we should just be leaving this to the kindness of strangers. We've got to have our own sovereign deterrent. That's why I was a proponent of Rwanda. That's why I feel we have to have a very simple system of our own that does not rely on anyone else, which is if you come here illegally, you're detained and you're deported back home to your own country or to a safe third country in hours and days, not months and years.
Paymaster General Nick Thomas-Symonds says the cooperation is already working.
There are 12,000 people who would have crossed the channel in small boats who have not done so because of the cooperation. We've also managed to seize 600 boats that otherwise would have been used on that dangerous crossing in the channel. But in addition to that as well, the law enforcement cooperation is yielding results. Just look at the last couple of weeks. There were 9 people in Lille this month where French authorities, law enforcement and our National Crime Agency worked together so that 9 people smugglers got sentenced to a total of 64 years in prison.
Meanwhile, the south of France is battling severe wildfires that have forced the closure of Marseille Airport. At least 400 people have been evacuated from their homes, according to French media. 9 firefighters are said to have been injured. Around 110 people have been injured in total, and around 200 firefighters, supported by helicopters and fire engines, have been working to contain the blaze. Authorities have urged residents to stay indoors. A leading charity says delays to compensation for victims of the infected blood scandal are having a devastating impact. As a report into the timeliness of compensation for those infected and affected is due to be published today. On Sunday, the Cabinet Office announced it was unlocking administrative barriers to help the compensation body speed up payments to victims. Campaigners say frustration is growing, with many still waiting for answers and dubbing it the worst treatment disaster in the history of the NHS. Christian Horner has been sacked by the Red Bull Formula One team. The British team principal became involved in a scandal last year about texts sent to a female employee. Reports in Germany and Holland suggest that Red Bull are negotiating the terms of his departure. A statement on Horner's position at Red Bull is expected later today. Greg Wallace has been sacked as presenter of MasterChef after an independent inquiry into allegations of serious misconduct. The decision comes as 15 new claims emerge, including accusations that Wallace groped colleagues and exposed himself to junior staff. He denies the allegations, though admitted some of his past comments had been inappropriate. And thousands of cases that would normally be heard in front of a jury should be decided by judges alone, according to recommendations made by a former senior judge. Sir Brian Levison was asked by the Lord Chancellor to come up with a series of proposals to reduce the backlog of cases in the criminal courts. There are almost 77,000 cases waiting for trial in the Crown Court in England and Wales, meaning some defendants and victims are waiting years for justice. Sir Brian suggested reforms to reduce the risk of total system collapse, but some barristers argue juries are essential for fair justice. To fix what he calls a broken system, Sir Brian has suggested having judge-only trials for certain cases, such as fraud and bribery. Director of Public Prosecution Stephen Parkinson said this report is a bold but necessary response to the mounting pressures facing our justice system. He says carrying on as we are is not an option. And those are the latest headlines for now. More news in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.359 and €1.1609. The price of gold is £2,419.33 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 8,860 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
A lot of you getting in touch this morning about this state visit with Emmanuel Macron. None of you are happy about it, I can't lie. Katie says the king is weak. He's part of the reason this awful government is running amok. Irregular migration, she says, disgraceful. Our beloved queen must be spinning in her grave at having such a spineless lefty as an heir. Well, there's your knighthood gone, Katie.
I don't think that's entirely fair because, frankly, these speeches are written for monarchs by their ministers.
Oh, come on.
Now, he could argue and say, I want it to be illegal, or have no reference to it at all.
But that's the point of being weak, surely.
Yeah.
You know, even if you were king, well, maybe you would. But if I was king and somebody gave me words to read out and I didn't want to, I wouldn't do it.
No. Well, irregular is just a joke. And it also, what I can't stand about this government doing this, they take us for mugs. Who do they think's fooled by it, by saying irregular migration? And once or twice it's crept in here.
It repeatedly...
Because if you say it often enough, it's the old Blair mantra, if you say it often enough, people believe it. So you've got to be really wary. So we're not using that expression, irregular migration, here, because it's illegal.
Well, the thing is, irregular migration and the cost of that to the country repeatedly comes up as the most concerning issue of the day.
Along with the cost of living crisis.
Because the two sit side by side. If we didn't have a cost of living crisis, we might feel we could be more generous with people coming to live here, because we are a generous country. But because we can't afford anything and because we can't get to see a doctor or a dentist...
Disability benefits, got to cut them, but we can find $4 billion a year to put migrants in hotels. Special schools, going to have to cut back the find $4 billion a year for the migrants. It really sticks in people's craw. No sense of justice.
Well, we're moving towards a one-world government, Andrew. It's a one-world planet where the nation-state won't matter and it will all be blamed on climate change and we will all be told it's not your country, you just happen to live there, you don't have a right to it. It's just... This is a movement of travel. I was quite happy, actually, to hear Macron say, long live France and long live the UK. Damn right.
Words are cheap.
Well, they are. Mary says if...
And then they all got up and did a standing ovation. Did they do the standing ovation in French? Actually, no, he did his... No, because the speech at the Windsor, he did in French.
Yeah, I think at the end, didn't he? He said, long live.
Yeah.
If I broke into France, would I be classed as irregular
at that
or illegal
dinner,
migrant?
you know what I would have done when everybody else stood up? I would have firmly stayed in my seat.
Well, I hope you would. Right, in a bid to save
How can you do a standing ovation to something you didn't understand a word of?
In a bid to save our broken justice system and resolve more cases, the number of jury trials could be reduced under new reforms.
Sir Brian Leveson, he is a retired judge, has revealed plans or a proposal to shift structure of courts and reclassify offences to cut the record-high backlog of 77,000 cases. And central to this is getting rid of a lot of jury trials. Let's talk to our GB News political correspondent, Olivia Rutley, and just say, can we say welcome back, Olivia? How is the little one?
Oh, he's really good. It was very hard to leave him this morning, but I suppose I'll get used to it, and I think he's very happy at home with my mum and aunt. It'll be really interesting to see if he recognises me.
He's being spoiled,
he will. No, you will.
He's being spoiled. So, jury trials, Olivia, I know if I want it... sometimes you're at Magistrates Court, they can elect whether you go to Crown Court or not. I'd want to be tried by 12 men and women and true, not by some judge.
Well, absolutely. And of course, the history of jury trials goes a really, really long way back. That's enshrined in the Magna Carta.
Oh.
The idea of jury trials is pretty much synonymous with proper justice in this country. But this report from Brian Leveson would, if implemented by the Justice Secretary, would overturn all of that. Essentially, there are lots of cases where a defendant can choose whether or not they want to be tried by a jury or whether they want to be tried by a judge and a magistrate. Those are called either-way cases. If the recommendations in this report were implemented, that distinction would disappear and those cases would all be tried by a judge and a magistrate. It would also mean that those who are facing a sentence of less than 2 years would automatically not face a jury trial. Now, the point Brian Leveson makes is he doesn't want to scrap jury trials at all. He has no sort of thirst for this. This is not what he wants to see happen. But the justice system is in a very, very bad way, and that is true. There are 77,000 cases in the backlog. In 2019, the average time it took between an offence being committed and a trial being completed was 500 days. It's now, by the end of 2024, over 700 days. And there are huge problems with that. You have witnesses forgetting key details. Sure. You have defendants kind of losing interest in the whole process. You have people absconding. Of course, a big reason for this huge backlog is lockdown, where trials just couldn't be done in front of a jury for, years at a time. And now we do have this really, really desperate situation. So Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, commissioned this report from Brian Levison. She said she wanted bold suggestions. At the moment, the government's saying that it's just going to consider the findings of this report. But having asked for such radical solutions, it would be very odd if the Justice Secretary chose not to implement them. So it looks as though this change really is coming. And how are defendants going to feel about that? As you say, if it were you or I think you would want to be trialled by a jury of one's peers.
A very interesting conversation we had earlier, Bev and I, was with Robert Buckland, the former Conservative Justice Secretary. He said one of the main reasons why cases are taking so much longer is because of the sheer weight now of new evidence that's come to light through people's phones, which are now can tell you where people were in a certain time. There's vast amounts of detail on phones, internet. He said, so whereas he could perhaps do 2 cases in a day as a criminal judge now, it could take 2 months.
Well, absolutely. And there are other complicated reasons, as well as lockdown, why this backlog has got so long. Another issue is the increase in, although generally the crime rate isn't going up, there is a big increase in much more complicated cases. So, for example, multi-defendant gang cases, where each member of the gang has phones, they're all talking code, and it takes a long time to get through that evidence. Then, of course, you've got the real terms cuts to the Justice Department, cuts of 40% since 2010. It's not considered a protected department, unlike healthy NHS. So you do have this enormous backlog. And there are also just some very strange sort of bureaucratic problems. So, for example, the government has cut the number of sitting days to try and save some money. So there's essentially an artificial limit on the number of sitting days. There can be courtrooms free, there can be judges free, but because there is this limit, cases aren't being sat through. So this backlog is increasing and increasing by the day, and it does seem as though there is going to be a problem pretty soon if it's not addressed.
OK, I had a message this morning from a very successful barrister friend of mine who said that it's Serco not bringing defendants to court on time which is causing much more of a backlog than the jury trial issue. She said, I recently lost an estimated 1 day a week due to that alone. This report feels disingenuous. She said the majority of our delays tend to have absolutely nothing to do with our juries.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Right, just to recap the breaking news this morning, Christian Horner has been fired as Red Bull team principal.
Come 17 months after he was accused by a female colleague of inappropriate behaviour, he was twice exonerated of the claims by the Formula One team's parent company, Red Bull GmbH.
Let's talk now to former Formula One driver Perry McCarthy, joining us now. Morning, Perry. Great to see you. So, how much of a blow is this? Well, to Christian Horner on a personal level, but also to the team. He's an iconic team leader.
Well, for me personally, it's come as a huge shock. But there's been some rumours, a little while recently. Christian himself has been unbelievably invested in this team for over 20 years, and the results that they've achieved have been startling, and a lot of that is down to him. There's no question about it. Not everybody's completely in love with his management style, but his determination and the way he's organised this team has been incredible. But organising a team does require more than just one person to do it. And he's been great at collecting talent inside the team, so such as the designers, such as the people who actually run the team, and of course their star drivers, such as Sebastian Vettel in the past and Max Verstappen, of course, who's been stunningly successful recently. But they've seen a bit of a migration recently on that talent. And so I suspect that there's been a lot of pressure on Christian. The performance of the Red Bull has been, even though they won the World Championship last year as drivers, the performance has been waning last year, and now they've had a lot more problems, even though Max, probably out of sheer brilliance, has managed to win 2 races. but in a car that's lost its dominant position. And Bev, you know this is every bit as much as I do. In Formula One, there's two types of pressure. You're either taking it or you're handing it out. And I think that Christian's been under pressure on this for quite a long time because, of course, Adrian Newey, their incredible designer who's had so much success in the past with Williams and also McLaren indeed, has now left and he's gone over to Aston Martin. So that's a big blow.
Yeah.
Jonathan Wheatley is a really talented team manager. He has been lost now over to Sauber, which is about to become Audi for next year. But the big one, obviously, is that there's continuous rumours that their shining star, Max Verstappen, may be looking at leaving the team and is being courted heavily by Toto Wolff over at Mercedes. So it's kind of disintegrating a little bit. That position, that dominance, that collection of talent is falling apart. And maybe Christian is paying the price for all of these things now.
Well, look, I mean, it raises the issue as well about the role of women in the world of motorsport. I was there 20 years ago, and one journalist described my experiences when I wrote about it in a book of, like, fighting off Peter Stringfellow in a jacuzzi for 3 years. And it did feel a little bit like that, to be honest. But I would like to think that times have changed, and in 2025, women in the sport will be treated equally as men. We still had no female drivers, of course, and that raises a question of why.
I don't agree with that point, Bev. Okay, but I mean, with women in motorsport, brilliant. Yeah. Why not? This is a talent, contest, and we're getting more and more engineers and team managers coming through that are women. And I don't care if it's a woman, a man, or a Labrador, as long as they've got the talent to actually do it and that determination. And we're definitely getting that coming through. Good. I don't think we can comment about the drivers too much. This is something that's being looked at, and we need the platform to allow more and more women to enter motorsport so that we can find out who can get to Formula One. We have to be very careful about this, is that in Formula One, again, as you very well know, we're talking about 20 drivers globally. Yeah. This is unbelievably difficult, as I personally know, to get into and to actually stay there. But you've got to have a widespread foundation of women to find who is the absolute. It's no good being good in this game. You've got to be special to get to Formula One.
And you've got to have And you've got to have a lot of money behind you, haven't you? You've got to have a sponsor who's going to help you get there. What will Christian Horner do now, Perry McCarthy? Can he stay in the sport in any capacity?
It's possible. He really could do. He's got so many amazing qualities. I mean, 20 years of experience of producing World Championships for the team, Constructors' Championships, World Championship for drivers, collecting talent. The pressure the bloke has been under for all these years has been immense. But, he's seemed to thrive on it, but it's now the results have been slipping, and Red Bull has been infamously ruthless with its driver selection, and who stays perhaps in the second seat. It looks as though they've been equally ruthless now with who heads the team up.
Yeah. Well, it's always been a ruthless business. Perry McCarthy, great to see you. Former Formula One driver and the original Stig from Top Gear, of course. We're allowed to say that, aren't we, Perry? You wouldn't recognise it from that. He was all covered up. But thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you.
Do you know I've never watched Top Gear?
Oh, Andrew.
Ever.
Up next, some unwelcome breaking news. Resident doctors who used to be called junior doctors in England, they're going to walk out for 5 days.
Do you remember when they said, Red Street said we got in, the strikes are over, the NHS is back to normal, year on, strikes.
Yeah, also we're going to find out why more than half of people have wept at work at least once. Sometimes I cry every day. This is Britain's Newsroom.
Not half as much as the staff do.
Pass me a tissue. See you in a minute.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning, it's 11:27. Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner on Britain's Newsroom. And, of course, we have in the studio with us Mike Parry and former Labour MP Stephen Pound.
And we also have, if the camera can focus on this, Stephen Pound. Well, last week we were talking about what should go on our currency,
yes.
£5 notes, £10 notes,
yes.
because the woke nonsense.
That camera there, Andrew.
The woke brigade will put ridiculous things on. This is... Right, here we are. So somebody has put Stephen Pound on this mug. Stephen, I know, uses this mug to keep his dentures in at night. But, Stephen, can I tell you, there is no prospect of you ever being on a £10 note, Stephen.
I don't think pound for a pound is not bad, I think.
Exactly.
I like it.
I wouldn't have thought
you do
so.
put your dentures in it, don't you?
Right, talking of money.
It's the only part of my body that's real.
Talking of money. Post Office, still no justice, Mike Parry, for the people who were wrapped up in this Horizon IT scandal. And now we know about how many people it literally took toll on their life.
The more we hear about this, the worse it gets. The very, very worse it gets, isn't it? And every time we get another part of the inquiry being released to the public, 13 people who were in such misery, who some of them didn't sleep for 3 months, and then in the end decided this is an unbearable life, I'm taking my own life. But once again, we've got to return to the original issue. Somebody at the post office must have suddenly realised that some postmasters and some postmistresses who had a history of being amongst the best of us in society, like our policemen, like our vicars, like our doctors, they weren't interested in anything except serving their community. How come all of a sudden, in 1 month, 900 of them were accused of stealing money from their own...
Extraordinary.
And some idiot didn't come forward with common sense and say there must be something wrong.
And we shouldn't get Fujitsu off the hook either.
Not at all.
They are culpable too. I think this is one of the greatest scandals of our lifetime.
I think it's the greatest. And also...
13 people dead, 300 or so died without knowing... before this report's come out.
Whose deaths were accelerated by the pressure put on them by the unbearable circumstances. And whilst we're not pointing a finger at anybody until all this is over, people have got to go to jail somewhere within this structure.
Mike, they won't.
Well, they should within this structure, because this is at least somebody is guilty of negligent manslaughter of the management of human beings, which cost those human beings their life.
Mike, I think you're right. I think the infected blood scandal could end up being equally horrific. However, in the BBC, every time they had a scandal, they would say deputy heads must roll. I think there's two things. Firstly, absolutely right. Some people have got to be banged up. They've got to go where the sunlight comes in stripes. You cannot be allowed to get away with it. Secondly, 10,000 people are waiting for compensation. Why, in the name of all that is holy, that is right, why can we not pay this money tomorrow? We've got to do it.
Because the Post Office have employed high-powered lawyers at vast public expense to try to crush these postmasters and postmasters...
And try to dismiss their claims.
To try to dismiss their claims.
I'm sorry, I think the Post Office, I think it's Gareth Thomas, I think he's the Post Office Minister. You know, he should simply say, look, this has gone on for too long. These people cannot suffer any longer. We must give them the money.
Because they're dying. They are dying.
Exactly.
And a lot of them are not on legal aid.
I know. Exactly. Andrew, when you see, people... A woman went to prison and had a baby.
She did.
You know, A man went to prison for 14 months. The stories are horrendous. Wyn Williams, I have to say, the very mild-mannered Welsh judge, when you listen to what he said, his voice absolutely calm and quiet, but damning. I don't think I've ever seen anything which actually drips contempt for the system.
But this report doesn't point the finger, because that's going to come separately.
The part two
is responsible. So we're going to have to wait years more to know who the guilty men and women are.
Presumably we can't mention the names of the post office people at the time.
Well, it's probably better not to, isn't it? Because, you know, this is...
report. So that will take us into the best part of 2028.
No, I'm sorry.
More people will have died by then.
Part two of the inquiry comes out this autumn, and I think by then we have to make a decision. By then, I have to say, I mean, I'm a Labour, as you know that, but I'd be ashamed of my party if we do not pay that money by the time.
I totally agree.
We need to give it. I'm so sorry. We need to do a right of reply. A spokesperson for the Post Office has said the inquiry has brought to life the devastating stories of those impacted by the Horizon scandal. Their experiences represent a shameful period in our history. We apologise unreservedly for the suffering which Post Office caused to postmasters and their loved ones. We will carefully consider the report and its recommendations.
Well, stop procrastinating and pay the compensation and apologise.
Don't just pay the compensation, pay back the money that some of them took out of their own bank account to settle what they were told they'd embezzled when they hadn't.
They should get damages as well.
Of course they should.
Damages for the impact on their life. Damages. It's shameful. It's wonderful.
Do you think we should quickly...
How do you compensate a woman who had to give a baby while she's in...
It's 32 minutes past. We're a bit late for the news, fellas. Very quickly, what's the farthest you've ever walked, Stephen, in one go?
About 30 miles.
Oh, not bad, Stevie.
The Great North Run, 13.2 miles.
Very good, right, because in a minute we're going to talk to a man who's walked all the way around the world. Don't miss it. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Anyway.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Most places having a fine, bright day today with some summer sunshine, and temperatures are starting to tick up. Another hot spell of weather is on the way, courtesy of this high pressure that's building in across the country. Now, these weather fronts dangling across northern Scotland. Quite a bit of thick cloud here at times, and maybe some drizzly rain possible across Orkney in particular later on. The cloud thick enough for maybe the odd light shower over southwest Scotland. And there's more cloud than yesterday over parts of England and Wales. It's not blue skies all the way, far from it, but most areas dry and bright, and with some sunshine coming through at times. Temperatures getting up into the low 20s quite widely, maybe 27, 28 in and around the London area. It's a bit cooler further north, where we've got the cloud and the patchy outbreaks of rain. But further south, it should be fine. I think we'll see the cloud breaking up even more as we go into this evening. A fine summer's evening for the majority. A bit of mist and low cloud possible around the coasts of the east of Northern Ireland, and some thicker cloud again across the Western Isles of Scotland and the Northern Isles. The patchy rain edging away from Orkney and pushing up towards Shetland during this evening, so turning a bit damp here. As we go through the night, not a great deal of change. Most places will stay dry. If anything, we'll see the cloud melting away, certainly from many inland areas. Always the possibility of the mist and low cloud returning to some of the coasts, especially around the southwest. And the cloud will thicken once more over the Western Isles of Scotland, with some drizzly rain pushing back in here through the early hours as the breeze picks up. Quite a warm night, temperatures holding up in the teens in most urban areas. On to Thursday, and it will be a hotter day, a sunnier day for most of England and Wales, southern and eastern parts of Scotland. Northern Ireland also probably seeing more sunshine tomorrow. The north coast may be seeing some thicker cloud, and the west coast of Scotland again susceptible to cloud and rain. Quite breezy here as well, but for most it's all about the sunshine and those temperatures rising into the mid-20s, 30 for some.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
The headlines at 11:30. Resident doctors in England will walk out for 5 days later this month. They'll walk off the job from 7 a.m. on the 25th of July in a dispute over pay that's coming from the British Medical Association. Emmanuel Macron and his wife continue their state visit to the UK. The couple stayed at Windsor Castle last night, hosted by the King and Queen. The French president blames Britain for the soaring number of Channel migrants crossing the English Channel. Christian Horner has been sacked by the Red Bull Formula One team, according to reports. The British team principal became involved in a scandal last year about text messages sent to a female employee. Greg Wallace has been sacked as presenter of MasterChef after an independent inquiry into allegations of serious misconduct. The decision comes as 15 new claims emerge, including accusations that Wallace groped colleagues and exposed himself to junior staff. He denies the allegations. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at 1 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Thank you, Tatiana, for the headlines there. Now, it's Wednesday, so of course, PMQs. Is this the last one before they break up for summer?
No, they've got a couple more weeks. I think they're breaking up on about the 21st of July, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, still a few more weeks to go.
OK, so Gloria and Tom will be there to host a discussion about this, and there you are both. Morning to you, Gloria, Tom.
It is the penultimate Prime Minister's Question Time. Next week is the final one. We've got our regular ding-dong today where the Prime Minister will take questions not just from MPs, but, of course, the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch. Lots to go on.
Oh, so much to go on, whether it's the the resident doctors' strikes, or indeed the French president's visit, which we're about halfway through now. It's going to be interesting to see what the members of Parliament ask the Prime Minister and, frankly, how he responds. But this show isn't just about the politicians, it's about the questions of the GB viewers as well. So please do send in your questions, what you would ask the Prime Minister. That's at gbnews.com/your say.
And tell us who you are and, as important, where you are from. We want to know where our community is coming from.
OK, thank you both so much.
And if I was Kemi Badenoch, I'd go on about this pointless, expensive...
humiliating.
Trip with the full panoply of hope and glory for the French president, who's just done nothing to stop the small boats. No. Tried to wreck Brexit, and we've given away our fishing rights. I just think it's nuts. That's what I'd be going on. And I think GB News viewers would be cheering on Kemi Badenoch. I bet you if Reform get a question today, one of those will ask that question.
Well, I would have thought so. Here we go. Janet says, pay compensation. Oh, this must be about the post office scandal. Janet, morning, Janet. Pay compensation, pay damages, pay for their representation, pay medical expenses. These decent, honest people were treated abysmally.
They were.
Many have long-lasting health problems. Family relationships suffered. They were snubbed by the community. Many also took their own lives. They need a lot of compensation and grovelling apologies. You'd think if that drama hasn't got this... I mean, if it wasn't for that drama about the post office scandal, we wouldn't even be talking about it in the same way.
It's the whole ITV drama... Sir Alan Bates versus the Post Office transformed everything.
That's right. Right, dying to talk to this man.
Yes.
Sports around the world.
He is amazing.
In 9,855 days, former paratrooper Carl Bushby departed from Chile in 1998 and is now, almost 3 decades later, beginning the last leg of his 36,000-mile walk to become the first person to travel an unbroken path around the world. He was originally going to walk for 12 years. He's faced extreme terrain, political borders and that pandemic. Through it all, Bushby has stuck to one rule: no transportation, only footsteps. And we are delighted to say that Carl joins us now. Morning, Carl. Where are you? Oh, you're in Mexico now.
Good morning from sunny Mexico. At least it will be in a few hours from now.
Amazing. Right, listen, tell us. I don't even know where to start. I have so many questions. When will you finish? Where are you coming home to?
My mother's house. I left my mother's house, headed down south, saw my friends, and then we left for the start point in South America. So we're going to have to wrap this thing up at my mother's house. And it will be round about September next year.
Wow.
So after, 27 years or something, we're just about there.
And what's the motivation?
Mission. We said we were going to do this thing, and we've stuck to it through some amazing adventures, overcome some incredible obstacles, and it's just an incredible adventure, and I couldn't think of spending one's life doing anything else, to be honest.
And when you say we, Carl, are you part of a team?
It is. It's a we thing. It's not just me. I mean, I'm the guy on the ground, but the world is a network. It starts with family and friends, and then sponsors, and people you'll meet on the road. I mean, people from every country that I've been in have kept me upright and moving forward, fed me, nursed me back to health, watered me when I needed it. It's a we thing. It's not just me, that's for sure.
So, how do you? I'm just curious. The globe is your oyster. How did you plan where to start and where to finish? How did you work it out?
I mean, there was a fair bit of planning. The original plan was to actually start from the UK and head out and get to the furthest point from the UK possible without using any form of transport. That was the whole idea. And it was actually a guy in the Special Forces who pointed out that, look, this thing isn't so much a physical problem or challenge as much as it is going to be a mental one. And that's the reason we swapped this thing around and ended up starting in South America, because every step I take is a step closer to home rather than further away. And in the long term, mentally, that might give you the edge. And that you find the route from the bottom of South America back to the UK.
And are you writing a book about it, Carl? Have you been blogging and vlogging? How do you monetize such a period of time as well? Or is that not something that you've been too bothered about?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I started with no support and no funding, but we were fairly confident that I could get through South Central America and hit the border with North America. Without that kind of support, overly confident, but we were right. And so those first number of years in Latin America was basically survival. We've got very little money, and like we thought, by the time we hit the United States, things were starting to change. And then we had a couple of small deals, a couple of handshake deals with some sponsors that were willing to chip in a couple of $100 a month. That kept me fed in North America. And then eventually a buck deal. So we had a buck deal with Time Warner, and that really paid for the northern part. It becomes very expensive.
Tell us about what about sleeping at night?
Where you stop. You do about 30 Ks a day, and you will find somewhere off the side of the road. That's where 90% of this happens. And then,
And you put up your tent?
So, you just stick up a tent,
Right.
And every week or so, then you'll crash a hotel somewhere possible, or a house to get a shower and a good meal. But yeah, most of this is just done on the side of the road.
But we've seen some photographs of you in pretty icy parts of the world, Carl. Were you not risking hypothermia?
You risk a bit more than that. There's been some real adventures in the north. Having to cross Alaska on foot to get to the coast, and then crossing the Bering Strait on sea ice, and then through Siberia, which took God knows how many years, to get down through Russia. We spent, I think, way too much time in the Arctic Circle, subarctic. So I've had my guts worth full of that, yes.
And you've not been home in 27 years?
Looking at 27 years. So I haven't been home. That's rule number 2 was I wasn't allowed to go home until I arrive on foot, thereby making this thing a continuous journey, so to speak. To that, I mean, this thing is broken into pieces because you get stuck every now and then from, pandemics, visa bans, financial crises, you name it. But so you'll have to sidestep and wait out. Like right now, I'm waiting on a visa to go back in and start my last stretch through Europe.
And And
that's just part of the game.
You're still a relatively young man. When you get back to your mum's house in Hull in 18 months' time, or thereabouts 15 months' time, what will life look like? What do you want to do for a job, Carl? Because how do you go back to normal life?
I think your mum's going to clip you around the ear for being away for so long.
She'll have a word, that's for sure. It's a scary moment in my life because I'm about to lose my purpose for living.
Yeah.
But I've always had a plan. So I have other interests and other things that will now, rise to the fore, and I think we'll be fine.
And if of all the many things you've seen and the miles you've walked, what has been the standout highlight?
The highlights are these gaps. There are these 3 controversial gaps that link all these continents together. So the Darien Gap, the Bering Strait, and of late we've had to swim the Caspian Sea. Those, without doubts, have been very challenging, some very scary moments, extreme conditions, and there's some of the highlights. Even between these gaps, there's countless thousands of miles of adventure. It's hard to...
It's going to be a great book. What's the title of the book going to be? What's the book going to be called?
Well, there's a book out already. The first one came out in 2006, and that was the Americas and the crossing of the Bering Strait, called Giant Steps. And of course, there'll be another one to wrap it up.
Well,
Okay,
good
Carl,
luck. Can you come on and talk to us again? That was fascinating.
Carl Bushby there in Mexico. Look up Carl with a K, Bushby, if you want to read all about it. Let's have a quick look at the temperatures, which no doubt he's walked past.
Yeah.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Largely sunny skies across the Mediterranean. It is a little bit breezy in parts of Greece and Turkey over the next couple of days, but still lots of blue sky to be had here. Small chance of a shower in Croatia, but mostly they're staying away to the north and east. Small chance of a shower across Catalonia as well, but most of Spain dry and sunny. Bit of an onshore breeze bringing some cloud to the coasts of Portugal, and fine and sunny in the Canaries. Continued risk of a shower or two in Barcelona into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're going live to Cameron Walker from Windsor, where Emmanuel Macron is making a mockery of Britain, isn't he, Cameron?
Oh, Bev, I'll let you decide that one. The King has now left Windsor Castle, as has the President. The formal farewell has now taken place. So that's it in terms of the royal pomp and pageantry and the royal soft power. That's arguably the easy bit. The hard bit, of course, comes now in London with those political crunch talks in Downing Street. The President is meeting the Prime Minister today alongside his wife and the wife of his Prime Minister. I think that's probably more of an informal chit-chat. Tomorrow, obviously, is the main political crunch talks. But what happened here in Windsor this morning, the King showed the President a horse which he gifted to Queen Elizabeth II for the Platinum Jubilee in 2022, designed perhaps to show that relationship between the royal family and indeed the Elysee Palace. But we have also had some we also have had some gifts that have been exchanged as well, including a hamper from the President, and the King presented the President with 12 placemats containing his watercolours.
Thank you very much. That's Cameron Walker. Still to come, Sir Keir Starmer, of course, will be challenged by Kemi Badenoch and MPs at Prime Minister's Questions Day. What will she go on? Will she go on about the totally pointless French state visit, which was the Prime Minister's decision to give it to him, and also to make sure it took place before Donald Trump came here? And he really is a serious ally, Donald Trump.
Don't go anywhere. Britain's Newsroom will be straight back.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Temperatures on the rise over the next few days. Pleasantly warm for most today, with many places seeing sunny spells, but not everywhere. There's a bit more cloud around today across England and Wales, and that cloud is thick enough for a bit of drizzly rain over Cumbria and certainly the west coast of Scotland, susceptible to a bit of light rain and drizzle this morning. That'll tend to ease off, except maybe over the Highlands and the Northern Isles, where we'll keep some outbreaks of rain and drizzle into the afternoon. For most places, though, it is going to be dry. As I say, a bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, but still some good spells of sunshine, and temperatures just starting to tick up. So most of us into the low 20s by this afternoon. As we go through this evening, not a great deal of change. A fine summer's evening across the south, with temperatures still over 20 degrees well into the evening. As I said, a bit more cloud bubbling up. There's the very small chance of seeing a shower over South Wales and southwest England. I think we'll see brighter skies by the end of the day across Northern Ireland. Quite a bit of cloud across Scotland, but here too, as that rain pulls away, we should see some sunny spells coming out across northern Scotland by the end of the evening time. The wind's fairly light, except for a bit of a breeze blowing in the far northwest. That'll continue overnight. Elsewhere, we've still got light winds, so could just turn a little misty in places, particularly around some coasts. And still the cloud thickening for a bit of drizzle on the west coast of Scotland. Temperatures holding up in the teens. In London, we may not dip below 16 degrees Celsius. And Thursday will be a warmer day again. Temperatures just a little bit higher by tomorrow. Any early mist will clear away. Some coasts, the east coast of Northern Ireland, west coast of Wales and the east coast of England, could be a little misty. There'll again be some patchy rain over the Northern Isles and the Western Isles, and perhaps at times into the far north of the mainland of Scotland. But most of us looking sunny tomorrow, and those temperatures ticking up. Tomorrow won't be the last day we see 30 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
Practice Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay.